Cella System, orbit of Celia, mid-2670. War Chief General Torlak. With a rough nudge, he moved at their demand. With each step, it felt like the cuffs on him grew tighter. As he looked around, plumes of smoke arose high into the open-aired space, with bodies of his fellow guards lying beside one another, littered about the ground like children's toys. It saddened him, knowing his battle to be lost, but held hope out on ground teams to deliver a counter to the Terrans. He had already forsaken a naval victory, but a blow to a prominent and dangerous ground soldier was a tactical move that he had hope in. He just wished Mariv would deliver the news soon, and with that, hopefully demoralize some of their troops to take out as many as possible. "Where do you intend to take us?" spoke Torlak. He did so with prevalent disdain, but still yearned for an explanation, if they allowed. The man before stopped to face the defeated Celian, with the guards beside him regaining a stance that said they were ready to make him into nothing but a memory if he so much as breathed wrong. "Well, if it were up to me, I would have let my men execute you the moment they breached those doors." He paused. "But orders from my superiors dictate that I take you in, alive, along with any other that might hold potential information," he said, darting his eyes to Orlin, then to the others captured from the command room. Torlak shook his head, trying to clear it of a subtle ringing that didn't want to go away, and met the gaze of the amber-eyed officer before him. "And do what with us? Torture? Public execution? Enslavement?" he added with vitriol, to which the man before him shook his head to the sides. "I could only wish. No, you will stand trial where you will be charged for your crimes against humanity. But not just you, but your council as well. I can assure you that we will have them in our custody by the end of day, even if we have to level the city to root thee out." The man turned and began to walk, urging his guards to deliver a shove in the form of an abrasive elbow to his back. As the group made their way through the large interior of the station, Torlak and his colleagues were met with more of the carnage that befell his station, but this time, instead of only his own men laying face down on the floor, he saw several soldiers belonging to the Terrans, that he felt a certain level of satisfaction at their demise. It was to the point that he almost wanted to laugh, but held his tongue. Instead, it was Orlin who spoke and began to berate their captor's fallen comrades. "So you Terran Vector really can die. Truly a shame they cannot bear witness to their victory. Blessed be the Father." A swift attack from his nearest guard delivered his silence by use of the butt of his weapon, causing Orlin to bleed from the cut created from the hit. "Shut up," ordered the guard in a cold tone, emotion devoid from his words. However, for as little casualties the Terrans had, his own were multiplied by nearly 6 to every 1 Terran dead. As he saw more evidence of that, the more they walked through the station. Occasionally they would come across a detached limb that he recognized as Celian, not just from the color of the skin, but of the green-colored blood that pooled beneath it. The same was also true for some of the enemy corpses, but he also noticed among the survivors several that had lost their limbs being actively treated. It went without saying that they writhed at the pain, with some tolerating it better than others, which was bizarre for him to witness. For as long as he knew, especially with studies done by medical professionals, all Celians were trained, or at least taught, that the loss of a limb should be avoided at all costs. He tried to remember the specifics on what exactly caused it, but how they put it is that when a limb was lost, their body overcompensated the flow of blood, causing them to bleed out relatively quick. That, paired with the psychological trauma of losing a limb, further induced their hearts to beat rapidly to the point that in just seconds they would die from the blood loss. Supposedly it was a mechanism ingrained since time immemorial, but with advances in safety, it was cause for little concern. Their little journey took several minutes as they continued through the station and soon entered one of the numerous hangars. Many of the catwalks and scaffolding were void of fighters, a sight he never thought he would see. But this time, instead of the numerous bodies of the station guards, there were formations of his people bound in rows on their knees. The formations were situated on the sides of a large ship, almost the size of a corvette, with the rear ramp facing them. As they walked to the ramp, other smaller ships landed before the rows of captives. The ship was rectangular with 4 squared thrusters on the corners of the frame and a large ramp in the rear. As the doors opened, it revealed a moderately sized cargo bay that they used to shuffle the captives into. When each compartment was full, it lifted off and departed into space. By the time he reached the corvette, more of his captured brethren were taken into the hangar space. Before him, a sizable hangar was present in the rear of the large ship. A small shuttle was parked in the center of the gray interior, as soldiers in green and black littered the space, going to and from the ramp of the ship. As far as he could tell, there were no other prisoners being led on board, so that meant that this ship was to be their transport. However, before they could be boarded, his current group was disbanded at the order of the guards. This left only Orlin and himself, causing Orlin to give a dry laugh. "Feels like we're of the council, huh?" he said. Torlak responded with a dry laugh of his own, before following in the steps of the officer before him. At the end of the ship's hangar in the center was a set of double doors that opened when a guard pressed his hand against a glass panel. It opened with a hiss, revealing a semi-long hallway that extended barely wider than the doors he entered through. Lining the hall were several doors, with another set of doors at the end, which mirrored the ones he just entered from. It was dimly lit, with lights generated from corners of the hall. Before they entered any further, the man before them stopped, with the first set of doors flanking his sides. Above them, the word BRIG was highlighted above. Before he could ask what it was, he and Orlin were shuffled into their own set of doors. Orlin tried to voice his discomfort, but was quickly silenced as the doors shut behind him. The same was true for Torlak, and after his doors closed, he was then shuffled into another compartment. This time, a wall of thick glass separated him from the other half of the room. Within his room was a thin bed, a sink, and an exposed toilet which added to his unease. It was wholly unremarkable, but it was also better than he was expecting. His cuffs were removed, which he massaged, trying to settle the acute pain he accumulated during his transport. When he turned around, a guard sat on a chair beside the door, and the man from before stood across from him in a chair of his own. His amber eyes pierced his own where he stood and beckoned him to sit, to which he used the comfort of the bed as his chair. The man removed his head cover, revealing a well-groomed man with graying sides of his black hair. The man then spoke into the air, with his voice translating through the speakers of the cell. The voice feedback sounded like it was overlaid with radio static, which added more to his isolation. "For the record, state your name and rank," spoke the aged man. Torlak was reluctant at first, but gave in to the request. "I am War Chief General Torlak Talesk, commander of all Celian fleets, and your captive." His voice sounded almost broken, but knew it satisfied the request. "Then to whom do I speak to?" he asked. "Surely you must be someone of great renown, are you not?" The man before him spoke in response. "You may address me as Vice Admiral Wolf, commander of the Terran Republic's 7th Fleet and the one who bested your navy," he said in a condescending tone befitting the victor. There was a pause between the two, and Torlak didn't feel the need to generate conversation with his captor. If anything, he found it his best bet to remain silent. However, this turned out to be untrue with the next words of his enemy. "Tell me, Torlak, do you have a family?" The words rang in his mind, and anger swelled in him, but he decided to remain quiet. "Because I do. A daughter, in fact." He reached into his overcoat, pulling from it a photo on a laminate piece of material. It shined from the overhead light as he revealed the photo to Torlak. He stood from his bed seat and made his way to the glass for a better look. The photo was of a family, the man before him, beside a similarly aged woman on the left. To the right was a young female with black hair fashioned into a bun, with the hair sprouting from it like a water fountain. She looked to be no older than in her early to mid-20s. He put it away when he continued to speak. "You see, she recently graduated from the Fleet Officers Academy at the top of her class. That's quite hard, because you're competing with the best of the best across all systems under the TRSC. And you know what getting top of your class gets you? Torlak shook his head, revealing that he didn't know what was obvious to the man before him. It's the prestige of commanding your own ship straight out from the academy, but you have to meet certain requirements, especially in the field of naval combat. Torlak wondered where this was leading, as he was beginning to get frustrated from the lack of purpose and substance in his questioning. Anyone can graduate top of the class and pick up captain, but to be able to skip even that to the rank of commander, well, it's unheard of save for a handful throughout history. But I digress. You see, you can be the perfect student, 100 on every test, and perfect scores on every mock battles. But the only thing locking you out of being a commander straight out of the academy is a final test, a test against seasoned veterans known for their naval prowess, a test where nearly all disadvantages are placed on you as a captain of a ship, where the only goal is to win. Pretty steep, right? The Celian only nodded as Wolf continued his monologue. You're also put against an invading force of at least 5 commanding officers, and to best them, win that, and they make you a captain of your own ship. Might even get to break in a brand new ship of the line straight from the docks. By now, Torlak grew annoyed, wondering where this was all leading toward, and his impatience showed. But the tone of Wolf changed, his expression reminiscent of a demon. And my daughter just decimated your defenses, and your home is as good as ours. But don't worry about your family, they're safe. At the second mention of his family, his anger was renewed, and his body involuntarily slammed against the glass in a fit of rage. Where are they, Akhtari? But Wolf stood motionless, with his expression unchanging and unfazed. Meanwhile, the soldier who was once seated was now in an alert posture, ready to charge into the room and deliver, no doubt, a swift justice upon him. Don't worry about them, they're safe. Would you like to see? Wolf said in a calm tone. Torlak showed no signs of lessening his rage until Wolf motioned for the guard. The guard revealed a small data pad, and with a tap on the screen, his captor navigated to a video. It was a room unlike his, with furnishings of a small table and couch. His wife sat on the couch holding a pad similar to the one Wolf held before him, and the kids played with toys never before seen. This is a live feed from one of our living rooms aboard a ship that's long gone from here, but I'm showing you this to tell you, I already won. But you want to know what's worse? Wolf then changed the feed to a recording from much earlier. This time, it was from a helmet camera of a soldier in black and gray seating his wife into a chair, and the closer he looked, he recognized the scenery. When the realization dawned on him, he grew furious, but was cut off by Wolf before he could speak. That's right, we were in your home. We knew where you lived, but that's not even the worst part. Wolf fast-forwarded the video and played the audio, the sound making its way into his cell. He saw the man who sat before his wife, maskless. It was the same man who felled Bralo, and now that same man was in his home with his wife and kids. He wanted to scream and yell, but knew nothing would come of it. Instead, he just listened. When it came to the part of the guards protecting his family, he grew attentive to her words. Hearing her voice seemed like years had gone by. He was reminiscent now more than ever, but his expressions shifted at her realization, which ended with her in tears. Before he could reach out to the device, he was blocked by the glass barrier he had momentarily forgotten. That can't be true. The Council, they would never do this, pleaded Torlak as he tried to rationalize their supposed decision. I almost forgot, but we found this on one of the bodies of the soldiers who guarded your family. If I remember right, I think it was a war chief. He turned to the entrance of the room before turning to the guard. My work here is done and I must be off, so I'm taking the shuttle. I'll ensure you have an escort at least until you reach the rendezvous with the Senate guards. From there, you'll handle a transfer. The soldier rendered a salute and departed with the officer as his escort. When the door closed, leaving Torlak alone, the audio recording began to play.
Source module, Celian transcript disk. Sender,
Councilman Polis, receiver. War Chief Morcus, playing audio, Morcus. You are to be attached to Aleska Telesk as her guard, but it shall not be for her protection. Should War Chief General Torlak fail in his mission and fall in battle or desert his duties, you are free to do what you wish with her, but not before. I suggest you rid of her, but it matters to me not what is done. The same goes for the children. This will be punishment for his bloodline for letting down not just the fathers, but all Sellians. By order of the head War Chief Kalim. End of message. Torlak was at a loss. He had used them plenty before, but a transcript disk was used with the utmost secrecy, when one couldn't risk data being intercepted. For them to use that only added to his grief. The council he had trusted had betrayed him, gone behind his back, and should he fail, a fate worse than death would befall his children and wife, a scenario he would never wish upon them. Now, he couldn't tell if he could be angry or grateful at the Terrans for their sudden involvement, by effectively saving his family from a fate unknown. He felt defeated, and did so as expressed by the sudden collapse of his legs. He struggled to pick himself up, thinking back to days prior, and to the man who sat before his wife. At first, he wanted a warrior dead, and even ordered a kill request on the man who also saved Aleska, his beloved. He was torn as his principles and loyalties were sent asunder. He then thought to himself, he had lost the war, but in the process, he was saved from the torment of a possible future of his family were it not for his enemies, and with that, he felt consolation. And in a small part of his mind, he hoped for the Terran's success. It was all he could offer.